Good afternoon, everybody. Dear colleagues and dear students, including the Dean, welcome to yet another event of the Department of Political Science and International Relations together with Cyprus Policy Center. We have a very timely issue that we are going to discuss today. Given the developments, the recent developments, including the Russian special operation, military operation, or invasion, whatever you would like to call it, of Ukraine, we would like to dive deeply in understanding how Russian thinking, especially in foreign policy making, is constructed. We are, in that sense, very lucky to have one of our own today with us, dear Vera
Liubchak.
Okay. Vera is a PhD student and a research assistant in our department, but she already has a PhD in philosophy of culture. She actually wrote a thesis on specificity of the Russian style of thinking in the context of peacekeeping problems before. So in that sense, we are very lucky to have Vera with us today. So without further ado, I would like to turn the floor to Vera for her presentation. Vera?
Okay. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share my ideas and understanding of Russian specific style of thinking, because it is very difficult to understand Russian thinking, not only for people from other countries, but even for Russians. So I cannot promise to you that after this seminar you will be understand it very well, but to help you to understand, I prepare some material to everybody. It is maybe one copy. Okay.
She'll have one copy.
Yeah, I have for Professor. Okay, this is for you. Okay. At the first glance, it may be very complicated, but I will explain step by step. Okay, so I really want you can understand, but please pay attention to the words of one famous Russian poet, Fyodor Tyutchev, who told, don't cover Russia with your mind, don't use your norms for understanding. It has its outstanding kind, you must believe without fading. So these words is very meaningful because it means that it's almost impossible to understand Russian thinking by mind. First of all, why? Why? Because Russian thinking is not follow common accepted logical rules. It has own logic. So you have this model, and I will begin. So first and basic foundation. So the very foundation feature of Russian thinking is emotional way of perception of reality. Not rational, as I told. So for this reason, it's difficult to understand by rational thinking. What I mean, in Russian mind, reality is equal to image of reality in my mind, in their mind, and personal opinion is equal objective reality. So people don't think like formulas, plus 1 plus 1 equal 2, but they have already picture 2. That's it. And even though you will add one more, and you told 1 plus 1 plus 1 equal 2, it's okay. The most important is the 2, the result, not formulas. Another important idea for understanding some basic features of Russian thinking is the so-called, in Russian language, nachetnichestvo, That means superficial attitude toward knowledge. Russian education is not focused on forming critical thinking, and people don't care about that. It's not so important like to have creativity. And another important key basic feature that includes in emotional level is illogism. That means that Russian people can express and hear two contradictory ideas at the same time, and actually ignoring logical conclusions when they need to do that. For example, you can meet a person who came back from the shop and she told, for example, oh my God, prices in the shop are so high. Maybe then 10 minutes later, she will tell you prices are normal, they are not so high. Logic? No, maybe, but it's okay. They don't see contradiction with its logic. It's kind of illogism, but it's okay. But I don't want to say that people are stupid or not smart. It's kind of specific logic. They can think logically in everyday life, but they can ignore logic when they need to do that. So go to level higher. So based on this emotional level, we can see three important features. First, fatalism. I think not only Russian people have this feature, but I want to explain. Fatalism is lack of faith in the ability to influence something. People in Russia don't believe that they can change something, especially in political life. So for this reason, they don't like to listen to political debates or to go to the election because they don't think they can influence. Another important feature, foundation feature, is survivalism. Maybe you know that for many years, people in Russia had very harsh nature conditions. They lived in very cold climate, so they need to adapt. So they have a very high level of adaptability to all conditions. They don't afraid of any conditions. And sometimes it looks like they want to have very difficult conditions because they feel better when they have hard conditions. And the third important feature is so-called binarity of culture. It means that it's kind of contradictories, and maybe it's the most difficult for understanding feature because the Russian thinking combine oppositions. And sometimes they feel this way and behave and act this way at the other time. So it's kind of combination of oppositions. I will explain a little bit more later. For example, a very simple example, contradictories. Russian people are very hardworking, but they're very lazy. At the same time, yes. Why? Because they can be very hardworking in a short-term period. They can, for example, build a house in one night, but then next year they will just relax because they don't want to do that. And next, contradictory features. Russian people are very naive, and they can believe in very unbelievable things. For example, not many countries in the world try to build communism, for example, but people in Russia are they believed that it's possible to live in the place where all goods and products will be free and where people will be equally. So they really believed. It's kind of, naivety, but at the same time, they are not so naive, because they also cunning, and for Russian thinking, trickery is more important than intelligence. If we can look, maybe you will have a chance to read some Russian fairy tales. You can see that in every fairy tale, cunning is more important. And very many Russian literature, in many Russian literature parts, you can see some kind of, okay, one father has 3 sons. One was very smart, another was middle, and third was cunning. And every time, both brothers, who smart and who middle smart, they were a loser. They were loser in Russian understanding. So much more important, cunning. Again, it's because of survivalism. People think that intelligence is not so practical to survive. But to find a way to adapt the situation is more important. Also, survivalism formed another important feature, like weak strategic planning. People in Russia prefer to focus on the current situation. For this reason, books like 5 Steps to Success are not popular. People think how we can think about 10 years, 20 years. We should survive right now. So when they hear that you will have problem 10 years later, it's vast sound. It doesn't mean anything. And as I told, Russian people sometimes like difficulties, like challenges, and they like to overcome, and they have intention to overcome challenges heroically. For example, very simple example, a person can 1 month to do some tasks, but he or she will not do it 29 days. They will do it in the last day, because he or she has a chance to be hero, to overcome these problems. So to create problems, so sometimes, yes, they really create problems and then overcome them and feel very comfortable. This intention to survive formed is very interesting attention, perception of law. Law is not regarded as a significant institution. So, for example, when you will try to explain Russian people that this event is breaking of international law, for example, or even Russian law, it doesn't mean anything. They don't have inside feeling of law. Because, again, as I told, they focus on survival. And law to survive is not so important. And also, to decide deception, as well as other human weaknesses, is weakly condemned. So it's not a problem. People lie, deceive each other, and they understand that they do that. So they try to do before others. If I will not deceive other people, if I will not lie, other people will lie me. Another important part of binarity of culture is collectivism and individualism at the same time. Yeah, maybe it looks strange, but that's it. But the Russian collectivism that were formed for many years has specific focus on not collective behavior, but rather on collective spirit. And in Russian understanding, it's called sobornost. And Russian people are very dependent of other opinions, of other people's opinion. But because of their low level of social responsibility, they look like individualists. For example, in the time of coronavirus, the Russian government asked people, please wear masks in public places, please do vaccination. But people thought, no, we don't want. Why? Because I just don't want. I don't care that other people can have problem because I don't wear a mask, but it's my privacy. I don't want. That's it. No social responsibility. And in many, many other cases. So we are going to another important feature. Russian people don't have clear understanding of the boundaries between one's own and another things. Maybe some of you know that Russian people for many years didn't have privacy, didn't have private property, and so it's very difficult to understand this is my pen, this is not mine. This is mine, this is yours. No, everything is mine, everything is not mine. Everything is yours, everything is not yours. It's about territory, it's about houses, it's about everything. It's about my personal space. So they can interfere in your ideas, in your place, and it's okay. It's very difficult to have this feeling. And the value of life, because the person kind of don't see his or her own boundaries. This is my personal space. So value of one life and maybe many lives, lives of many people, is less important than the idea. So for maybe very important idea, people are ready to don't count lives. Another contradictory idea is passive and rebellious. So Russian people, because they are fatalists, they think that they should suffer, and they will suffer, they will endure, but don't change anything. They will very passive, very, very, very long time, many years, many years. But if when they see that their level of adaptability is so low that it prevents their survival, so they can be very rebellious because they have rebellious spirit. But sometimes, because they can't understand themselves, this rebellious spirit expressed in very strange situation, against like in situation with masks. Okay, I cannot go to demonstration against government because it's dangerous, but I can express my protest with mask because nobody will arrest me because of mask. So when they can protest and it is not dangerous, they will do that. But when it's dangerous, no, because my surviving is more important. For this reason, they have kind of impulsive short-term activity. They can express and then be calm. And another very important key feature of Russian style of thinking, again, because of historical conditions, because Russian people for many years had to fight against many enemies and against natural conditions, fighting and victory is very important. So Russian people much more better understand each other when they use fighting. So I beat you and you beat me, okay, we can understand each other. And victory, again, is very important. So I really need to have victory. Or at least I should have an image of victory in my head. So it also will be okay. So they don't afraid of fighting. They maybe like fighting, as I told. And it's their language, kind of. About freedom, yeah, maybe some people know that in 19th, Russia decided, had a decision to change the regime, and people talk, we want to have freedom, we want to have freedom. But actually, people in Russia didn't understand what freedom is. Freedom in the Western style of understanding. But later, when people understood that this freedom means responsibility and a lot of limitations, okay, I have freedom, but you have freedom, and I should respect your freedom. So they understood kind of that, no, it's not for me. Of course, I should talk that not all Russian people, do similar ways, but it's maybe common portraits image. But Russian understanding of freedom is closer to Russian word voля, and maybe and in Soviet time Russia had a magazine that called People and Voля. And voля or freedom in Russian understanding is kind of freedom without limitations, without respecting other boundaries. This is freedom. Freedom that sometimes kind of closer to the wilderness. It's their understanding. They want to have this freedom. And at the same time, it's another important, very important feature is fetishization of power. The power is equal the God in Russian mentality, in Russian style of thinking. For this reason, I don't know, do you have in your country this literature, but in Russian literature we have a lot of songs, poems about leaders, about Stalin, Lenin, Putin, and in this literature they look like gods. They can everything, they know everything. And so because people have this perception, it is very difficult for them to think about change of power, because it's kind of something sacral. It's kind of closer to the God. One more important feature is expanded consciousness, expanded perception of space. Of course, maybe you know that Russia is a very big country, and it became bigger and bigger from time to time. So again, people don't see boundaries sometimes, and they want to have more and more. Even though I have very many territory, many things, I want to have more and more and more and more. I want to expand and expand and expand and expand. On the other hand, expanded consciousness means that people are very kind and they are ready to help everybody, because again, it's kind of without limitations, without boundaries. And and another complicated aspect or binarity of culture is attention toward wealth. On one hand, historically, people in Russia have suspicious attitude towards wealth, and they like poor people. So for this reason, people don't like very rich people in Russia. But at the same time, people want to be rich and to have a well-fed life. Again, I want to focus that ideological factors, ideas, are more important than material factors. So, for this reason, people are ready to suffer, don't have money, don't have food, but to insist on their idea. Because they will follow, because they are emotional and they are ready to follow the idea until they will see that they cannot survive. As addition, motivation is more important than actions. What do I mean? Russian people can do many bad actions, but then they will tell, I didn't want bad things. I just wanted to help you. Sorry that I distract your property. I just wanted to help you. My motivation is more important. Don't look consequences, just look of my motivation. And for Russian people, it's okay. Motivation, my motivation is important. So, again, another complicated or maybe two oppositions is total mistrust and unfounded faith. People in Russia don't trust people, especially to people from other countries who have another culture. But at the same time, they have unfounded faith. Then they believe, for example, that they will have very good future. Why? Just they believe. And this contradiction and maybe this maybe better understanding of this founded faith is expressed in two Russian words that's impossible to translate on English. And on Russian, it sounds like avosi and nebosi. Avosi means hope for success, even though there are very few reasons for success. Maybe no reasons for success, but they will believe I will have success. For this reason, they usually don't have very reasonable strategic plan. They just they think about probably I will have. For example, a student don't study, don't go to the classes, don't prepare for exam, maybe just 1 hour, and he thinks, I will have an excellent grade. Why? You didn't do anything. But it's very simple, but it's for understanding of Russian behavior, it's very important to understand. And nebosi is kind of another feature. It's to hope to avoid consequences despite clear evidence of negative behavior. Even though people do some criminal actions, and many people saw that, but they hope it will be okay. I will not have consequences. So, as I told, it's kind of dreaminess, unreasonable expectation of a better future, and it also reflects in Russian word Oblomovism. It means it was a hero of one of Russian, from literature, one Russian hero from Russian literature who just dreamed and didn't do anything to change his life. Because people wait for change and suddenly. Avosi, somebody came to me and changed my life, maybe, or something happened. And we almost on the top of our list, Russian people are very proud, and they are very sensitive to humiliation and punishment. They don't like to hear about punishment of Russian nation, maybe, or Russian Federation. It makes them angry, and they want to feel pride, but moreover, they want other people to see that they are great people, and they want to see others understanding, even though they don't understand themselves sometimes, but they want other people to understand. Before, when I talked with my friends from Russia before this seminar, and they asked me, please understand other people that we are not so bad. We want other people to understand that we are good, but maybe we are so complicated people. So why, if you are so sure that you are good, why you should prove other people? But they want to see that they are not so bad. And maybe during my explanation, you saw that, okay, people in other countries so also maybe emotional, maybe they believe in fears, maybe you see some similar features, but in Russian case, it's all these features, not all maybe, but many are very exaggerated. Russian people can be very kind, but maybe very angry, without limitations. They want freedom without limitation. So it's kind of, exaggeration in many features. So these features formed some very stable Russian ideological complexes. And this is maybe about continuity and change. Finally, I go to that. This complex that I told, this feature that I told before, they are very, very stable. They didn't change, maybe fundamentally. Maybe people just adapt to this regime, adapt to this situation, but they are the same. For example, one of the central ideological complex is fearsome but fair Tsar. Tsar, yeah, maybe someone don't know, it's kind of king, but again, as I told before, Tsar is higher than king. It's kind of similar to the god. So it could be Tsar, it could be General Secretary of Communist Party of Soviet Union, it could be president, but it is okay for Russian people that he has a very big distance between people and him. It's okay, because he is fearsome. People like to have fear, afraid of Tsar. Yeah, it's kind of habit. But they agree to have this fearsome, or maybe sometimes terrible Tsar, like Ivan Grozny, or terrible the General Secretary of Communist Party like Joseph Stalin. Because, yeah, he was terrible, maybe he killed many people, but he was fair, he thought. And he tried to help other people, and he tried to create a good image of our country, so it's okay, it's no problem. And the same attitude, perception for president. Yes, I told that important to have fair Tsar, so fairness is another important ideological complex for Russia. As I told in the beginning, law is not very important, but fairness is important. What does it mean? Fairness includes, in Russian understanding, to defend myself, to defend my friends, to defend my country, to defend brothers, I mean brother nations, other people, all people who are suffering. So it is fair to help them. And fairness means equality in Russian understanding. For this reason, Russian people are very angry when they see unequal
unfair treatment.
Yes, yes, they are very, very vulnerable in this sense. Another important, very important ideological complex in Russia is so-called Moscow, the Third Rome, or the Russia is the kingdom of the truth. For many years, from Tsars to the presidents, Russian people see Russian Federation or Rus as before as an ideal country. Why? Because they think that people have traditional values and they can provide to Rus. Moscow, the Third Rome, because the first Rome was the center of the world empire, there was empire. Then Constantinople was the second Rome, and it held traditional value, Christian values, and the Moscow should be the third Rome and the last one. So it should be the last center of the world. And this idea was formed from the very beginning to the current. And people, it's kind of nature of people think this way. And based on this complex, we see another complex, messianic calling of the nation. So because Russia is the third Rome, so people should protect true values, protect friends and brothers in any countries. Maybe they are not very close. Maybe this is brother in Syria and any other country. Maybe why Syrian people are brothers, but they are suffered, so they are brothers. So we should protect them. And this mission, as Russian people see, it's to build the kingdom of truth. And the last one, strong ideological complex, is Russian people see themselves as a victory nation. So victory, as I told before, is very important. Past victories are very important. Past victories are projected to present time. It's kind of, they join them. So we had victory before, and we should have victories now, and we will have victory in the future. It's very important, because we should win always and everywhere. So, yeah. So as you see, and you have this model, this is complex, and as I told before, in my opinion, they didn't change fundamentally through time. It may be just adjusted a little bit, and kind of, again, it's kind of adaptation. So that's my main points. So if any ideas, any questions, and we can discuss it.
Well, thank you so much, Vera. Let's give a round of applause for this insightful and somehow, in a way, mythological related, let's say, structure. Before I give the floor to your questions, let me say a couple of things. When we discussed with Vera, I asked her, can you come up with a structure of the way general Russian thinking, and let's try to apply this to the Empire Russia, the times of the Tsars, and what continued and what changed, for example, when that Russia evolved into Soviet Union, and then evolved from Soviet Union to the current system. But what you are saying is that mostly you see a continuation and whatnot. But just a couple of sentences. What are some of the small, let's say, changes from the times of the Tsars to Soviet Union, and then from Soviet Union to the current Russia?
Maybe some people have more critical thinking because when Russian people took a chance to see other countries, to have access to other sources, they began to think more critically. Especially with the technological developments and whatnot, that we have instant access to information. Yes. And
but I mean, from Tsar's Russia, the empire of Russia under Tsar, to communist Soviet Union, was that really this characteristics, this future that you describe as a high adaptability capacity that sort of continued, or was there any transformational thing that one system has caused on people?
I think adaptability is the very foundation feature, and as I told, they just try to adapt to any situations, to Communist Party. Maybe when they had a chance to build this new kingdom, like communist kingdom, communism, they were very impressed, and they believed that they can have this very good kingdom. People in Tsar Russia, they didn't believe that it's possible. So people were very happy that they can to do that. And Yeah, but unfortunately, when they understood that time is going, but they don't see, they were angry, and they tried to build communism for themselves. Maybe they became more individualistic. I mean, when they had a chance to steal something from the factory, for example, they did that because they want to have communism at least at their home, communism. But so maybe they became more individualistic, even though Soviet system was focused to build collectivism, but actually they formed individualistic finally. But what else?
Let me exploit my position with one more question before I turn the floor. This is fascinating stuff for me, especially for somebody who's in the last couple of years attempted to understand Russian politics and Russian foreign policy. Because most of us, we operate with Western codes. All those Western type of education, Western type of upbringing, or whatever you call it, most of us in this part of the world are operating with Western codes. So this is something else, what you have presented. And in most of the books that I've read so far, there was this almost something that was taken for granted that Russia had always been a European power. It was a European empire. During World War I, during World War II, Russia was regarded as part of European theater, right? So that was the sort of understanding. If Russia was a European power, how come Russia is so different with regard to what we call now Western values, like rule of law, like democracy, like superiority of law and respect for human rights? There is a kind of disconnect here that was Russia ever a Western or a European power? What is so special that Russia is so different from what we regard today as Western actors?
Historically, I think Russia was part of Europe world, maybe just in the beginning of the forming of Kievan Rus, in the very beginning, when the center of country was in Kiev, and it was just first tribes, but later, after Russia was attacked, Russia was attacked by Mongols, and after that, as the Russian history considers, Russia stopped to follow European way of development. Why? Because, as I told, it contradicts to possibility to adapt. So Russian people, I'm sorry, but they not European people, and maybe not Asian people, not Eastern people. As the Russian president told maybe many times, Russian is unique civilization, because of this contradiction, maybe in the mind, sometimes they want to be as Europeans, sometimes don't want. Sometimes they want to be like people in East, next time the West. So this bizarre combination creates, I think, really unique civilization without traditional Western values. It's not natural for them. In the 19th, maybe people tried to be more democratic, more European. But later they understood that it's not natural for them. It's difficult for them to respect law, to respect other people's rights. It's difficult. It's not natural. So they can do that, and some people were more adaptive, and they adapted to this, but not all, maybe. So.
Okay, now I would like to open the floor for questions.
First of all, thank you for your presentation. And in light of this kind of more analytical understanding of Russian thinking, historical thinking, how can we situate the current aggression, Russian aggression towards Ukraine? Like, is it so? How can we divide if it is the reason is Russia itself, the Russian mind, or there is a kind of special place of Ukraine as well in this action? Like, I mean, Ukraine could do, Russia could do this to any of its, for instance, former Soviet Republic, or Ukraine has a special place in Russian historical thinking concerning this aggression, and in light of this information.
Okay.
Now we came to the moment of truth, right? The current situation. Yeah.
I think it's a very complicated question, and maybe complicated not only for people abroad, but for Russian people too, and maybe for Russian elite, for Russian government too. So on one hand, if you look at this kind of map, you can find that idea is important. Expanding consciousness, yes, and no understanding of boundaries, okay, and victory nation, fairness, etc. So it's kind of Russian style of thinking in general. But also, I think the situation that we see is kind of exploitation of Russian features by some people for achieving their goals. If you ask about what about other countries, yeah, why Ukraine? Yes, Ukrainian people are considered as brother nation for Russian people, maybe much more than other. So I think this is one reason. Another reason is we should analyze some Soviet style of thinking about the role of NATO, fear of NATO, and possibility of NATO to close to Russian borders. So geopolitical to be closer to Russian borders. Yeah. So yes, style of thinking. It's very important to understand that it's not spontaneous. It was impossible, even though Russian leaders can do everything and don't ask people, but he wants to have support. And to have support, he should, based on Russian thinking and ideological complexes. And he does. For this reason, many people support this action, and because they see it's kind of help to other countries. But on the other hand, yes, this situation has geopolitical aspects and specific understanding of Ukraine for Russia.
Yes, Roger. Maybe you can take off your mask for a minute so that we can...
Yes, the mask is very hard. I can't breathe with the mask. Anyway, my question is, there was an article written on international security on how Americans would react if tactical nuclear weapons were used somewhere in the world. Well, Iran, most probably. But the results were very, very frightening, because the American people did not mind using nuclear weapons somewhere else. So I'm going to ask you a question. How would the Russians react if Putin decides to use nuclear weapons in Europe?
I think they will support this decision if they will think it's kind of fairness. Yeah, in order to defend Russia. But on the other hand, as I told in the beginning, Russian people sometimes cannot understand themselves, and sometimes some people try to predict the next step of Russian people, but it's impossible, because sometimes they can do contrary. So maybe now we think, okay, they will support, but maybe if he will take this decision, they will think, stop. It's low our border of survival. So we want to live, so we don't agree. So it's unpredictable. They can change their mind suddenly. So for Russian people, let me focus one more time. For them, it's very important to have a picture. So if they will have a picture of terrible situation, in this case, they will stop. Because now they have a very clear picture that America is enemy. America wants to harm Russia. They want to use Ukrainian people against Russia. They have this clear picture in their mind. And they have another clear picture. We can survive. We can adapt to the sanctions. It will be okay. Avossi, we will be okay. But if they will see another clear picture, for example, no products.
I think this is very important. Yeah.
No products in the shops. No opportunity to go abroad. No opportunity to get more money. It will be another clear picture, very clear image. And they will think, okay, we should stop. And we should change something, because we don't like this picture. So.
But nowadays, it's mostly the kind of picture that they were allowed to see. They are shown by the Russian president is a limited picture of what he is projecting to them.
Yeah.
With all these restrictions and censorships of Western media, and of course, you should also take into consideration that we are living in the age of fake news, as well as internet trolls who can actually create new pictures of new realities. It becomes much more complicated. Yes?
Yeah, so they should see another picture. Okay.
Mustafa Hocam, and then we'll go back to. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. When I was coming here, I had many different questions on my head, but now after this very complicated, as you defined it, style of thinking that you have put it, very interesting, but for me obviously very difficult to digest and understand. So we understand you, as you say that, we understand you. My question is, you have put this Russian way of thinking. I take it that this is the people of Russians' way of thinking. Can we say, or can you say that this way of thinking is also reflected in the leadership?
Yes.
It is reflected in the leadership, because at some point of your speech, you were saying that there is always a distance, or people like to have this distance between the people and the leadership. And that's why I was kind of wondering whether this is really the way of thinking of the leadership as well as the people of Russia.
Yes, actually I think that leaders maybe are bright representatives of the population. So yes, Russian people think, yes, it's a good, it's normal to have this long distance, and he thinks this way. Yeah, it's normal. So yeah, if we can go through this map and we see that we can understand better actually Russian leader. Yeah, with idea of victory nation, messianic calling of the nation, and idea is more important that material aspects, etc. Yeah, maybe not all aspects, and I think maybe it's another topic of thinking of Russian leadership.
Yes. My second question, which is, you stated that motivation is more important than the action. So if we try to read this regarding the operation now, how would you, or what would you say are the main motivations for Russian way of thinking behind the operation than the action? What are the in Ukraine, the main motivations, not the action?
Go back to the first maybe slide. Not first, maybe. Yeah, to the base, to the very basic. Oh yes, that's it. Reality is equal image of reality. So for Russian people now, reality, it looks like in the Ukraine we have fascist government, we have Nazism, and these people killed their own people, on Donbass, and people in Ukraine are suffered, and they want Russia help them. It's not only the leader mind, but many analytics agree that he sees the picture this way. And and Russian people see the similar picture. We have fascist government, and we should protect. I think it's also important to understand that fascism is very, very important fear for Russian, because they always go back to the victory in the
World War II.
Yes.
Yeah.
So fascism is maybe most dangerous thing that they have had in the history. So for this reason, for them, fascism in the Ukraine, in our brother country, is terrible. So we should do everything to destroy this fascism regime. And this fascist regime is part of American plan. So we don't actually fight against Ukraine, but against
the Western imperialism.
Yeah, and so for this reason they think, okay, we don't harm people, we just destruct military objects, and this fascism, Nazism, and so, of course, maybe some people, they just exploit this understanding, but for their own goals.
Yeah.
But this is picture. And maybe it looks strange, but yeah, many people. Now maybe some people begin to think another way. But of course, as I told before, because they have this very bright picture in their mind, it's difficult to perceive anything else. Okay, maybe a couple days ago, one journalist on the Russian TV during news, went with the picture.
Stop the war.
Stop the war. Yeah. And I know that some people now begin to think, maybe she's right. Maybe
she's crazy, but maybe she's right.
Yeah, they begin to think. So this kind of actions may be very useful. Maybe they are dangerous. So, but because they have this picture, they should see another very bright picture to change their mind.
Thank you.
So my other question is about China. trust China?
No. As I told, they total mistrust. They don't trust everybody.
Not even his good friend, Mr. Erdogan. Probably not. Right. So you're saying that the mistrusting is the driving factor.
Yes, yes. They try now. They try to ignore this mistrusting because they need to find someone who will support. So they try to ignore this fact that Chinese people may be suspicious too. Maybe Erdogan is also maybe suspicious, but they should to find a foundation. So they ignore any dangers.
Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. You say right now that the Russian way of thinking, they are not highly level of social responsibility.
Yeah.
So is that kind of how the society is structured? Like, as we can say, is it collectivism or individualism, or they are mixing both? Because the way they are thinking is different from others. What is the cause of this? They are mixing individualism and collectivism, or they are just choosing one of them?
Yeah. Are the Russians individualistic, or are they collectivistic, or it's a different animal?
They collectivistic individualists.
Right. How do you explain that? Because there is this stereotyping that if you are looking at the Western culture, and more specifically US culture, it's very much individualistic. And if you are talking about Asian culture, specifically Chinese or Korean or Japanese, that they are collectivists, right? There is that stereotype at least. So where is the Russians?
Sometimes they are individualistics. Sometimes follow to collectivism. What I mean? For example, yes, if I can be, how to explain that? First of all, they care only about themselves. My interest on the first place. But other people should think like me. So they expect collective mind rather than collective behavior. So collectivism in mind, but in behavior individual. I don't know if it's more understandable.
Look, I mean, as I said before, I mean, most of us have been operating with Western codes. And today, Vera is showing us that maybe this sort of binary way of thinking things, or this Western codes, is not really the way to understand Russian thinking. And I think that today we just turn the first page to start understanding the Russian thinking outside of the kind of codes that we are usually used to. Yes?
Can we say that there is a kind of identity crisis in Russia, because some people consider themselves or identify themselves more with the Eastern, the Western part, like being more individualistic, and the other parts of the society consider themselves, belonging to the Eastern part of this collective.
Can I add something? Yeah, please go ahead.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Can I add something else that we had a discussion earlier with Devrim, to use Huntington's terminology, torn countries.
Exactly.
He talked about Turkey as a torn country, meaning torn. Well, I don't like to use civilizational categories myself, but Huntington classified Turkey as a torn country between Islamic and the Western cultures, and he also explained Russia as also another torn country between Orthodox Christianity and what was the other one, and the Western cultures. Is that a kind of identity crisis that I think what Gülay was trying to allude to?
You mean that they don't understand who are they now?
No, do Russians experience an identity crisis? Again, using Western codes.
That's
I think Russian people now identify themselves right now as Russian and not Russian. That's it, right now. So people who support politics of current politics of Russia identify themselves as Russian, not Western, not Eastern, not Asian, not West, but just Russian. Because people in Russia maybe were impressed firstly by Western civilization when the border were opened, and they found out many interesting things, and they thought, oh, maybe we are more European people, than Asian people. But then they understood that they don't like many things in Western countries. So they stopped to identify themselves with West, but they don't want to identify themselves with Asia. So they decided to stop Russian civilization, specific, unique, with combination of many different features from West and East.
But the way that they behave, it's sometimes it's Western, way.
Yeah, sometimes yes, sometimes
But
like.
do you think that there is a kind of crisis here because of lack of identity? I mean, clear identification, maybe as Russians, or.
Maybe, in my opinion, they had maybe this crisis, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, but now the most people identify themselves just Russian, no problem with identification. Maybe again, right now, some people decided no, we don't Russian, because they decided we do not consider ourselves as Russian, rather than maybe. But maybe yes, now I am, maybe right now yes, maybe, but maybe just 1 month, not more, this crisis.
It's a very difficult situation in the sense that today's Russia is also sitting on a position as a successor of the Soviet Union, which included all these different ethnic groups as well as the religious groups. So, for example, where would you put the Armenian or the Azerbaijani diaspora who lives in Russia? Are they Russians? Are they, or the Kazakhs who live there? Do they consider themselves as Russian? Do the leadership within Russia consider them as Russian? Or are we talking about today, especially as things are going, as Russians being mostly this Slavic brotherhood that resembles more to the times of the Tsar, mostly the Russians, Ukrainians, Belarusians? Just an ignorant question, I don't know.
Maybe. I think now is kind of transition period. So I think people are confused. And again, I know that some people from post-Soviet countries, they identify themselves as Russian people just because they because they support this politics, and they consider, okay, we understand. So if we understand and we agree, we are Russian. But other people from post-Soviet countries don't support, so they are confused who we are. And yeah, I think it's, in my opinion, it's very, very difficult time, transition time for people. Because they try to understand where should we go, because maybe, you know, many, many thousands of Russian people escaped from Russia during last month, and they go to Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Armenia, Georgia, everywhere, in Turkey, to Turkey, just because they cannot identify themselves with this country now, and many thousands, and they are confused. So it's a difficult time. I think we can speak about identification maybe later. Now it's kind of confusion in minds.
Yes, let's take maybe the last question, if there's...
You asked a question, or he asked a question to you, and you said Russia is a unique nation. So do you still agree it's a unique nation? Because now you say it's in transition. So I am confused as well.
Yeah, it's, I mean, transition period because people try to find solid base for them. I mean, yes, Russia is considered, I consider Russia as unique, not civilization, I don't like this word too, but it was, but these words were told by Russian president. He told, don't try to find who we are, west or east, we just Russian civilization, unique. And I think actually it's very unique because many...
Yes, go on. This is very normal.
Yeah, yeah, because many features are very strange, and we have some very bizarre combination of some features from east and west, like I thought, like we discussed about collectivism and individualism, who have a similar mixed combination. I don't know, maybe you know who have, but maybe, but now, as I told, now it's kind of confusion situation for all people, not for all people, for many people from Russia. The majority who support the current politics, there is no problems for them with identification. Okay, we know we are Russian, we are fighting against America and we defend our country, we are the center of the world, we should be the center of the world, we are victory nation, etc., no problem with transition with them. But other people who maybe changed their mind because of access to internet sources, and maybe they study abroad, maybe they went abroad many times, and they have critical thinking, they are confused. Should we still consider ourselves as Russians? Because we don't understand people in Russia now. And so maybe we are not Russians. So who we are? And what should we do now? Yeah.
Well, it's very clear that I think, and this is my personal belief, of course, that the very international system created after World War II by the victorious powers, including Soviet Union, has come to almost like the end. And I think this war in Ukraine is the beginning of the construction of a new world order, which we cannot really describe today. That's why I think there is this transition. But I would like to thank Vera today because she helped us to at least open the first page of our attempt to try to understand an important actor, one of the architects of the post-World War II system, still a very important actor. That's why we need to understand the way they think. So in that sense, I would like to thank you again for your excellent presentation, and I'd like to thank everybody who attended this event today. So let's give a final round of applause to our speaker. Thank you. And Vera, what we do usually is that we give a present to all our speakers, invited speakers, the poster of this event today. So this is for you.
Thank you.
And we have a photograph. Thank you so much.
Thank you.